Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Public Works update. And we will be fully staffed in a moment. Now we're good to go.
Good afternoon, commissioners, members of the public. Savannah Clement, Deputy Director of Public Services. We do have an executive session today. We have people on hold waiting for that. So if we could start with that, that would be great. The executive session item is potential litigation.
Potential litigation.
Correct.
And that sounds like 15 minutes.
Let's do 10. I think 10 is okay.
So we will go into executive session for 10 minutes. That executive session will begin in about a minute then. That'll give us time to make it into the room. We will come back to.
And it's to discuss potential litigation?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
We're back. No decisions were made in executive session. Savannah gets the award for having picked the correct number.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our regularly scheduled items. So we have public works items. I didn't identify myself. I apologize. I'm Susan Eugenius, the county engineer. So the exciting news is our chip seal program is kicking off early. It's kicking off next Monday on June 10th, and we're starting in the Longview area roads. I'm going to wrap this into our construction program updates. It's more for public information. So as part of our ongoing efforts to get information out there during our chip seal and our construction programs, there is a a construction map online that you can access on the website. You can access it two ways. When you open up the county website, there's a button down towards the bottom that looks like a little construction worker, and you tap the construction worker, and there's a link in there to Cowlitz County Public Works construction map, and you can pull up the map, and we will be updating that weekly with what roads we're working on. It'll show you chip seal. When the overlay program kicks off, it'll show the overlay program and our active construction projects. In addition to that, we will be releasing notices every week, generally on Fridays. We'll know what we've accomplished that week and where we're moving the next week. And that is, they are always up on our Facebook page, and that will include the link to the map. So we're hoping that people start using that map and can give us observations, comments on how we can improve it in the next years, because this is our first year rolling it out. So we're kind of excited over this new GIS function we're doing.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I'm thinking about the AI that is sold as AI around, and it's very handy to just get up and just say, is there a road closure in Longview this week? And just have it come and answer you. We're not quite there though, are we?
No, we're not quite there, but we are moving our mapping. So every year at the beginning so in January, our GIS person will map what roads we're going to do, and she'll show it as 2020, this year, 2024 projects. And then when we know what week we're doing them, she just has to go and change one number in that link, and it'll turn it as showing active. And then when it's completed, turn it off to complete it.
I would add that AI could pick it up if it's on our website and our Facebook posting. So, I mean, it could possibly, if you were to wake up and ask your phone that through Copilot or Google AI, it could answer that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there. It's
Mhm.
still a little bit in the future. We've got some catching up to do here
Mhm.
and there on some issues, but I do look forward to that.
I am a little curious when you say you're going to be sending out notices. Do you automatically send to AMR, the ambulance service, and the two community bus services, school buses and River City Transit?
That's a great question. Our press releases would normally include local transportation. I would have to check on AMR. I'm not 100% sure, but if not, that's a great suggestion to include in our press release distribution list, especially for transportation projects. One other thing that we've been doing that we did a couple months ago, you may have noticed around the county, we've started posting signs on specific roads, specifically highly traveled roads, or that we're doing chip seal there this summer. So we've also got physical signs posted for those people who don't maybe go online or maybe don't read the paper. So.
I would imagine since school buses get going about 5 in the morning, that's before they might normally look. So it shouldn't be that difficult just to add them onto your list of
Mhm.
folks.
School buses leave the depot.
Well, they
at
start
5.
going on their routes or
At
early.
5?
Yeah, and normally we wouldn't start this soon, but as Susan mentioned, we've started a little bit earlier and school still is in session. Normally it's
Oh, that's right.
July.
This
and-
week,
but
yeah,
it
this week.
is,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
true, yeah. Maybe
But-
scratch that school thing.
Well,
Next fall,
next
though.
week school's around still,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, that's right. It's amazing when you've been retired as long as I have, you forget these details.
Well, Savannah and I still have kids
That's-
in school,
yeah,
so
we're
we
well
know when they're
aware.
end.
Yeah.
Our kids are counting down.
Yes, yes. Oh, well, so are the teachers.
Yes. So the other Public Works item is kind of an update to, we are still working through the private roads. We have a work session with BPAC this Thursday at 2. So we've added an extra meeting with BPAC every month so that we can work on the private roads.
There seems to be a little complexity there between whether private roads should be with building and planning or private roads should be with public works.
Yes.
Do you have a strong feeling? You don't have to just say yes or no.
So I'm going to give that depends. If private roads are going to become public roads, then at some point in time, then it should be with Public Works. If private roads are never going to become Public Works, I'm more ambivalent and it could go either way.
Good. I think I see it the same way. The question though is, you never know, never.
Correct.
And we are used to people trying to get by with the less expensive
Mhm.
formulation of the road and then saying, oh, by the way, can the county take it over? And I don't know what the legal protections we have and whether a private road can have a disclosure statement on it that says, absolutely, it'll cost you this much more or some such thing.
I don't know if there would be a way to do that, if it would cost you this much more. So different states and different countries have different rules on private roads. One of the main things is it gated? Is it truly a road that people cannot access besides those who live there or have access rights to it? And so that has become in other locations a sticking point where it's not gated and closed off, so that if I was on a Sunday drive and I decided to drive it, there's nothing to stop me. So that has been in other areas. To my knowledge, it's never been tried in Washington State. But I know in other areas it has been tried, and there are rules about when it can be considered a private road. And a lot of it comes to, is it shut off regularly? And the definition of regularly is very broad. Is it shut off regularly from people who don't have the legal access.
There are a lot of private roads around here, a lot. I know of at least one where you can drive, any citizen of the county with a car drives on a private
Yes.
road. And so I don't think there are many that have the gates. Some do.
There are some that are gated. I know of at least two off of headquarters that are gated. And I think there's another one up in the Tootle area that I can think of that I know are gated, but I know most of them are not gated.
Right.
And just to give you a scale of how many miles of private road we have 524 miles of public road and over 200 miles of private.
Pretty sizable.
And growing.
So I know of one situation in the valley between Columbia Heights and Beacon Hill. There is a road, a private road called Cedar Brook, which goes down the hill. And in fact, that neighborhood is adjacent to the Cedar Brook subdivision, whose main street ironically is West Beacon Hill Drive,
Mhm.
as if there is actually a connection to Beacon Hill. But nevertheless, Cedar Brook was opened up to make emergency access available. And it's an open road. It's private. It's in really bad shape. And the county keeps, I think, what I've been told is that there are new lots being continually added to that area.
Mhm.
And nobody is maintaining it, from what I understand. That's somehow there's got to be a way of enforcing if this is serving a public need for emergency access. It ought to be on a private road. There shouldn't be a threat to the emergency vehicles not being able to get up because of potholes and deteriorating condition. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I know
and
the area you're
I think the
talking about.
road is literally on a private, it's not on a dedicated easement. It's privately owned by the developer, I guess.
Yes. And there's not a whole lot we as Public Works can do. Once you're off of public right of way, there's not a whole lot. I don't have any authority to go in there. I do know that there is I believe there's at least one private bridge that the emergency services will not go across.
That's out in Rose Valley, isn't it?
Not the one I'm thinking of is on Kalama River
The one
Road.
I'm thinking of is the one out on Rose Valley as well.
Yeah, there's one out on Rose Valley that I'm 50-50 on. They might take an ambulance over, but I don't think they'd take a fire truck. So yes, there are situations that they just won't travel on them.
Yeah, I think we're going to end up having to decide something on that. It's pretty complicated in the sense that there are always going to be strange
Mhm.
situations where we will not handle it unless we force everybody into the same mold. I don't think I would personally be inclined to do that, but I know that you faced a situation in particular just now, 2 sections of county road, and all of a sudden in the middle, there's a private road.
Mhm.
But that's a pathological case, I hope.
Mhm. There's a lot of private roads that go directly off the end of public roads that if you extended them another quarter mile, they'd hook up to another public road, but they never lay them out that way because then you get in those situations. There are a lot of older private roads where they don't have strong road maintenance agreements, so they never get maintained. You have other private roads that do have agreements, but it's hard for a homeowners association to get a reluctant or multiple reluctant participants to
In
honor
my
it.
experience, it's the first generation of owners in a subdivision that are enthusiastic about the homeowners and they contribute everything. But when they start selling off the second, third owners, don't have that connection. And it's just an extra expense. And why am I paying this? I don't have to pay it. I'm not going to. And that's the whole problem. That's the real disadvantage of having homeowners associations and those kinds of extensive public roads.
Yes.
But we also live in an area that has, in a county that has a lot of rural areas. And the
Mhm.
only way that people are going to be able to live in the peace and quiet of a nice area out in the countryside is to have a pretty low cost road because they live 1,500 feet off the main drag. And that's also cost prohibitive. So it is a conundrum. The problem happens when that original owner decides to further subdivide along that 1,500-foot road that worked fine for one household, but when you put 8 or 10, then you've got a problem, and they do it in such a way that they never go before planning review.
Mhm.
I don't know what the solution is. I mean, there are laws that say you can't do that. You can't do that. That's, what do they call it? Cumulative subdivision. But I think we have examples of that happening all the time. And there's no recourse. The county doesn't own the property, so they can't
Yeah.
they
there's-
can't go back and we can't give a gift of public funds for private road maintenance. So I
What-
don't,
How does the county decide to put in a county road?
So our old roads, our original roads were brought, were old logging roads, wagon trails, whatever they were. They were brought forth by the property owners. They petitioned the board, and current owners could do this too, petition the board to accept the roadway into the public road system. When that is brought to the board hands it on to the county engineer who does a report, and then it comes back to the board for a public hearing as to whether that roadway is going to be accepted, and all those people along that roadway dedicate the easement to the county.
Wouldn't that mechanism apply here?
If they wanted to, they could do that. One of the more modern ways we do it is during subdivision. When they are subdividing up, they dedicate public roads as part of the subdivision. So that is how we see our new roads currently, is generally in the subdivision process. I do not know of a petition that has been brought to the board. I can't remember one being brought to the board. Do you remember one, Commissioner Weber?
no.
So,
And I'm thinking on the evolutionary scale where it said there are a number of situations where it's private, but then all of a sudden it could be extended another 200 yards and it'd be in it. Is there language that says if you have access from both ends that it's onto a county road, then you must, I mean, I would think that there are things you can do
so
to narrow it.
yeah, so if you look at Clark County's and Lewis County's private road ordinances, Clark County planning under GMA has a transportation plan where they show their major corridors. So if you're on one of what they're considering a future major corridor and you're developing, you have to develop it to and through your parcel. Because a lot of times if you go another 500 feet, 200 feet, it's generally, there's one big parcel and then there's a small parcel in between them and the next roadway. So they're like, well, we don't touch the roadway, so that rule doesn't apply to us. So that's why the transportation plan that the GMA counties do helps keep
Yeah.
the orderly development.
In the past,
Yes, it won't solve the old problems, but it can solve forward.
private roads were in building and planning, right? And then they got moved to public works.
Yes.
If it were to go back to building and planning, then at some point, building and planning has to work with public works and say, they're petitioning a private road here, but I think it really means by some criteria, it should be public road. So there's still going to be cooperation and all that kind of conversation.
Yes, and that is something that could be addressed in SEPA if it's a division, something that triggers SEPA. See, and that's where the boundary line adjustments and some of those ways that these roads come about, they never trigger SEPA, and so that doesn't get addressed. But the SEPA process is one of the ways that that can be addressed.
So probably one of the best examples of how it can get out of control is Walker Road.
Mhm.
Because there must be 200 families on a private road. Just keeps getting extended, and it's quite an interesting network of dead ends, all connected by a private road, and it's not in very good shape, and and in fact, it couldn't be retroactively made to fit without extensive cutting down trees and, you know,
And
it twists and turns and it gets
I've
narrow.
had
and it's-
scary,
Huh?
I've had scary experiences on that road. That's why I'm nodding. Like, it is scary.
But like in that case, you're going to have to essentially grind the old road out, right? And put new.
It's all
It's
Bedding
it's
and
all
all
gravel
gravel.
roads, so you would just have to
Yeah.
Been paved.
regrade the base, probably put some ditches
It's all
in.
gravel.
It's all, most of it's
oh,
all
okay.
gravel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So drainage is pretty atrocious. So the mud puddles are
Mhm.
bigger than
Potholes.
puddles.
Yeah,
And, but the challenge then is, we could probably figure out a program to pave and upgrade and put the drainage in. But should Joe Q Public pay for that? Or do the property owners whose property values will go up when they get a decent road?
Mhm.
Shouldn't they pay for it? And that's always the struggle that we have on who should pay for the
We-
roads.
Apparently, we can't even get them out of their own volition to maintain their own road.
Yeah. Without the, like the HOAs in place or the agreements, maintenance agreements, we do have the LIDs and RIDs. The RID is road improvement, but LID is
local improvement.
local improvement, two programs. And we just finished the last one probably 10 years ago. Is it Basswood, where the homeowners paid in yearly taxes essentially to pay back the cost. But they all have to agree. There's a lot of stipulations, but like, as you mentioned, the newer first generation.
They actually don't all have to agree.
Oh, I
There's a
thought-
percentage.
Okay, a
I
percentage.
think it's a 60%,
It's,
which
yeah.
is, I mean, it's a commitment. And the costs have to be related to the future increase in the value of the property. That's kind of the tie-in.
And a lot of the public roads, because they've been looked at, my neighborhood, I live on a private road, looked into it, and the cost of upgrading it to public road standards was greater than we could assess, than could be assessed against each parcel.
It's kind of a sweet spot. of-
Yes.
So again, it goes back to, these are in rural areas, large lot sizes, mean you
Mhm.
pay for a longer strip of the road. That's what drives those costs up. So that's, the city of Longview has, they get LIDs all the time for local improvement. People will have a gravelled alleyway down a block and they'll pave it and then everybody kicks in. 60% will agree. There's always somebody
There's always someone.
grumpy about it. But those are also situations where it's already on the public right away. So you still have the challenge of public improvements have to go on public right away. Who's going to buy that right away
Mhm.
in order for the government to pave it? And yet, on the other hand, part of our job is public safety and public
Right.
health protection. And at what point does a situation like Walker Road rise to the occasion where the threat to public health and safety requires the government to step in and implement it? And we don't have metrics to define that. Nobody's been killed on an accident on Walker Road.
No.
No house is burned to the ground on Walker Road that I don't think anyway, because fire trucks
Couldn't-
won't go up there. So, you got the potential threats, but are they actually happening? And people, one of the wonderful things about human beings is we learn how to adapt to the environment, which
So-
is one of the reasons why Longview is protected by dikes.
Yes.
So in this immense controversy, is Public Works thinking that the private road standards are going to be so strong that they do raise the cost of, say, a short plat, but it will be assumable by the county at a lesser price in the future?
That is kind of where we're going, and the private road standards that I've been working on, that I brought you the draft from, they didn't really change. There were there was a change on requiring an inspection of an existing pipe. So if you're converting an old logging road, your engineer certified that it was at good or new condition. So that was a new requirement. I had created a new road type for our smaller, like 5 or 6 lots, that could allow a smaller road. But most of the items that I had in there were clarifying what we were already reviewing it to, because one of the arguments that we always have is, what's the design speed of a private road? So that was put down as a standard where it's 15 or it's 20, depending on what the speed, on what class of road it was. So it was more, what I was moving forward was this is what we're proposing to clarify some of the issues. So that is where I was leaving it. So I just know that
Trying to codify what your
my
practices are.
practices, yes.
So people have a chance to
This
know ahead
is,
of time instead of
yes.
being told they've gone too far.
So
I was just say, just for Commissioner Mortensen's kind of question, so will these standards in any way kind of address future, maintenance, reducing maintenance costs by being a public road if they were to become public roads later on?
So if you had a Class A road, they are basically designed to a low-volume rural road county standard. The roadway section is a little smaller than, by smaller, I mean the rock and the asphalt is a little less than what we'd build. And we don't require your nice shoulders for your walking and your bike on these private roads. But we do require a 24-foot wide road and a 60-foot easement, which is what our goal on our local access roads are in the county. So your neighborhood roads in the county, that is what we're going for. Are all of our local access roads to those standards? No, because we have not upgraded all of our local roads. Some of them are 18, 20 feet. Some of them are even smaller.
So I'm a little lost on the nomenclature. Class A is the,
The largest classification of private roads, serves the most homes. It's required to be paved. As it can serve, currently it can serve up to 50 homes. It's between 20 and 50 homes.
and Class B is
Is
lesser?
less than that. So it can be a gravel road. It's the same width, but it can be a gravel road. And then Class C is a smaller roadway, even fewer homes, also a gravel road.
And if I'm doing a short plat and I want to do a Class C, I'm going to have a cost for putting in the Class C. How will that cost compare to the Class A? We talking twice? the
So
cost?
the Class A,
Oh, yeah, and the cost, I want to separate between construction and then the requirement for extra land.
so that all of the classes currently require a 60-foot easement.
And it's been that way for a while.
It's been that way since the private road ordinance was adopted in, no, since 99,
Oh, I was thinking the memo.
99, 2000, when they were originally adopted. I can't remember the exact year of when they were adopted.
So it's just a construction cost we're talking about.
Yes, so the big difference, so Class C roads, I believe, are 20-foot wide, gravel. Class A roads are 24-foot wide with asphalt.
And the price differential, just a factor of 2,
Yeah,
statistically,
about, it's the
the-
asphalt cost.
it's mostly the asphalt,
The difference between the two is the asphalt cost.
not the crushed rock and the screening or anything.
No, because the rock that you're putting down for the roadway is the same type of rock. And it's the asphalt and then 2 additional or 4 additional feet when you get up to a Class A.
You don't have to have a cloth or something like that under there.
It's not always required, it's recommended, but it's not required that we put down the geotextile separations. It's recommended even on your Class C that you put that down and then put your nice rock on top of it. So if there's lesser rock underneath, that it doesn't go up into your good base material.
So I may not have it right, since I'm just a city boy. But it seems to me that a lot of the problems happen when you have a sparsely populated neighborhood, maybe one or two, served by old logging roads that predate 99 standards. And they want to subdivide. They want to add more traffic to those logging roads, and they don't want to have these excessive costs because that road served us well for 50 years.
And it's not just those, but it is the boundary line adjustments that we were talking about earlier that are along logging roads that then get sold to private individuals, and then they're subdividing and.
Like a boundary line adjustment would be a 5-acre lot being subdivided into 2.5 acre lots.
No, so what,
Or is it smaller? It's usually smaller.
they
areas.
have these big lots, so like these 40-acre lots, and they'll break off, let's say 10 acres. And then that person, and that's done by boundary line adjustment. Then those 10 acres, that person wants to subdivide. So it's an old logging road that all of these lots were off of, and now they've been converted to residential. And well, that logging road's been there forever, and it served everybody perfectly fine when they were logging. And now I'm buying residential lots, and people are often surprised that they are having to bring it up to private road standards. The best example that has been going on in the past years.
Excuse me, those kinds of developments that come along a logging road, we call those Walker roads.
Yes,
Because that's
there is currently one going on in Rose Valley. It's off the end of North Bodine. The name of the road is Bootjack Lane, and it was it was a Weyerhaeuser property that was logged in 15 approximately. And so then they held through their moratorium, and then it was sold off, and it was boundary line adjustment. And in the past 2 to 4 years, everybody's been coming in and they're having to adjust this logging road, which has the crazy Y intersections, and they're having to bring that up to private road standards. And it's when the person, if you buy a lot and you just build a house, you don't get, oh, you need to do the private road. But if you buy the lot and then you're subdividing it to sell off the 5 acres to pay for the construction of the house, that's when they get surprised with, oh, the private road's not up to standards. You need to bring it up.
Nobody told me, why are you changing the rules on us? Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm still trying to get a handle on what a decision might be for a developer of some kind. So I'm assuming that the reason we even have this discussion is because it amounts to the dollars for putting in the road.
Yes.
Otherwise, if the cost the same,
They,
so tell me what's a rule of thumb cost for per 100 feet, 100 meters? You choose
With
it.
asphalt, like a road cost?
A road, yeah.
I don't have that cost. I would have to work one up because
You'd have to kind of figure it out per lot because lots change in size. So the smaller the logging, or the smaller the road is serving bigger lots, and the per lot costs are going to be it's going to be expensive. That's why they keep saying we don't want to.
And
No,
it also depends, on the logging road, because some of these logging roads are 12 feet wide and some of them are 20 feet wide.
No.
But I know what you're looking, but so that why the difference between the 12-foot and the 20-foot is because
You just told me the construction cost was the dominant factor. And I'm looking for just the average situation. There's always going to be a
Yeah.
pathological case.
and I don't know that cost. I would have to
so
figure it out.
I was under the impression that the reason there was resistance of some kind to going to a Class A was the price. And so if I'm a developer, at the moment, I've got to get loans, I got to get
Mhm.
stuff, and it's not a per lot basis at this point. I'm just trying to see how much cash do I need?
Like per
So-
lane mile or per foot, something of that
Yeah.
nature.
So one of the other big protests that they have, and it goes to one of Commissioner Weber's comments, is, well, it's been working as a logging road. Why do I have to bring in an engineer? That has been one of the big pushbacks that we receive. I don't need an engineer. It's been working fine. And then they go back to the engineers also time. So they say the engineers, they're all busy, so it's going to take me 6 weeks at least before they put in their first step for review. So you're costing me months when I could have just subdivided and sold.
That's the Detroit diesel engine mentality, where they took a gas engine and put it in a Suburban, converted it to diesel, and those engines never worked because they kept on blowing up.
So
I'm
that,
saying,
yeah.
logging road is a logging road. We don't know what purpose they had other than maybe they were in the dry season and they're only going to be there once.
Yes. So, and that, so these are some, that's one of their big pushbacks on having to have it engineered, is the timing and the cost for an engineer. When they can just get a contractor to go out there and just build it. Or if I've got a perfectly good logging road, I'm going to put 6 inches of gravel
But
down and we're good.
We're still digressing.
Yes.
Between class A, B, and C, you still need the engineer.
Yes, and you need it in A, B, and C. Oh, you need it for all classes.
Right.
So,
So there's a development out in, it's called North Lexington.
mhm.
It's right adjacent to McCorkle Creek. In fact, I think McCorkle Creek forms the southern boundary of it. And there are 25 homes. I can't remember exactly the plat, but something like that. I'm assuming those are all dedicated public right-of-way roads built to standards. I mean, they look really in good condition.
Yes,
And the interesting thing is, no homes have been built yet.
correct. They
Good.
have not finished their connection. They don't have a connection to 411. That their frontage improvements have not been approved by the state, so they need to complete that. I'm 50-50 as to whether they've completed their requirements with Beacon Hill for their water and sewer installation. And so they need to complete those items in order to finalize the plat, in order to start selling lots.
And they can't really sell lots when the interest rates are as high as they are.
So let's move on. That's a good preview of what is going to clearly be discussed
Yes,
more heavily. And so you're presenting what you've got to the BPAC.
so the
And then-
BPAC, yes, the BPAC, I've given them what I had 2 meetings ago, and they want to sit down and discuss what they feel should be the standards versus what I've presented. And so we're going to have multiple workshops to work through their comments and have discussions as to why it is, and they'll give a recommendation of what they want versus probably what I want. And
And maybe it'll be dichotomous at BPAC because there's the big builders and then there's the not so big builders.
yes, it might be, but I feel
But
it's
there are
pretty
there are
strong.
the builders who come up from Clark County who have those rules
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
and our rules are not as stringent or more stringent than Clark.
Well, it depends on who you talk to. So they say our private roads are more stringent, but I think that's because we allow more private roads, is my understanding from talking to Clark County, that their locations where you can put private roads are much more limited. So,
All right.
And are they driven by
So
their
we will
plans?
see
Yeah.
something possibly. It sounds like we're still 2-3 months away.
yes, I'd say 2-3 months, especially since we're hitting summer, and so there's potential with lower meetings, so
Be
it'll
all
slow
ready for
down.
next year's construction season.
Yeah, next year's board. Maybe.
Okay, next.
We'll get it done before then. Just moving on. So facilities updates, the jury area is coming along. If you recall, the board approved a upgrade to that area and we've been working on that. The glass is already installed and in. We were there yesterday. It looks so much better. The noise is dampened better. TVs are installed, and we're working on getting the chairs and plugins, actually, I think this weekend. So hopefully we'll have a new area and a new water fountain.
And a beer dispenser.
Not yet.
So this is the jury waiting area.
Correct.
Not the jury rooms.
Not the jury
They're
rooms, the
gonna be
waiting area.
Still subject to quarantine when the next epidemic hits.
I hope not. The jury rooms have all been, the ones I've been in the back hall have all been they've been upgraded. They're small, but they do have newer carpet and paint and fixtures in the actual meeting rooms.
Of course, the epidemic requires fresh air exchange, so we probably haven't gotten that yet.
Right.
That's a different project.
Different project.
Anyway, thanks for the fresh water supply for the jury.
Yes.
While they're
Thanks
waiting.
for pointing out the positive. I actually was going to give the board another update on the HVAC updates from the Hall of Justice before this meeting, but I did not have an opportunity to. I didn't have the information I was waiting for. But I do hope to send another update regarding that this afternoon. Again, follow up from my Friday email. We're having some odd smells on the second floor there at the hall. So I hope to send an email update out this afternoon. The chaplaincy building, we have toured twice. Yesterday, Mike Moss went and met with 2 board members on the chaplaincy board, as well as our real estate agent. So that's moving forward. Hopefully we'll have an update next week on where we're at on that.
We will see something next week, you said, and that something is?
I don't know that you'll see something. We will have an update.
Oh, I just didn't hear that.
That's okay. Yeah, I don't know that any documentation or anything will be provided, but we will have an update.
And the sheriff's informed about the potential for additional storage.
Sheriff was on site yesterday. He's one of the board members as well, conveniently, so.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Anything else on facilities before I move on to parks? Okay, parks update, Cougar Restroom. We went ahead and added to our current contract with Celix so that they would provide cleaning services 5 days a week during the summer, which was recommended by Alyssa Dunn, who has been cleaning those facilities, and then it'll be reduced to 2 times during the off season. So she's pretty excited about that because it was very time consuming the drive alone. But tourism is, go ahead.
Who's the agency doing it?
Celix, which is our current janitorial service.
Okay.
We added to that contract, which I believe the board approved a couple weeks ago, but it's been a while. So that's moving forward. Another update that I don't have on here, Commissioner Weber, had asked about the Cowieman Park and updates on that. And I think really quickly at the end of the meeting last week, but I wanted to officially provide an update that the bathrooms are there and installed. We're just waiting on the ADA compliant ramp before having any kind of formal grand ribbon cutting or opening or anything. So hopefully that's comes sooner than later. Anything else on parks? Go
But
ahead.
they're usable now. If somebody's hiking through there, they could use them.
I have been told they're usable, but I don't know if that's official.
So actually, I do have a question on parks, and
Sure.
and that is, how is the new access to the shooting range coming?
So next week on your agenda, you'll see the official CRP setting up our project number. We are going to utilize, we've been working with our on-call aerial survey company. So we are getting them lined up to do our survey work for us. And we're contacting all the owners along that corridor before we do that, so they don't, public drones, they get nervous. So they, once we get the CRP number next week, I have their task order that I can add to the contract. I can issue a notice to proceed. They're anticipating getting the survey done and to the county 5 weeks from the time that they start. So I'm estimating us having a survey beginning of August and starting on the design.
And again, this is coming off of Burma Road and coming around overland, or is it?
Yes, it's coming off of Burma Road. And that was one of the discussions we're going to have. We're maybe you guys can vote on a new name for it. So it's going to tee into Burma Road at the end of Burma Road and run overland over to right near where the current parking lot is for the gun range. So we're going to tie into that access road to the gun range so that the residents beyond the bad area can then access their lots.
So why wouldn't we just continue it as Tootle Park Road? It's a loop.
If we could, if the spot doesn't give way.
Oh.
So
Oh.
yeah, that is do we want to call it something?
Park dead end.
Yeah, then
okay,
we'll have
all right, I get it.
like West Beacon Hill that never touches Beacon Hill. We'd end up with a situation like that.
There would be a certain justice if we named the road after, what's his name? That was so adamant that we build the shooting range.
Dick Miller, yeah. A posthumous award, I think, right?
Yeah.
And I'll end parks with an update. We had a Catlin Cemetery cleanup recently with Huntington Middle School. And then we actually last week had a Facebook, I guess, promotion all week that highlighted the Catlin Cemetery. So I think we had a lot of visitors. And we had some visitors also Memorial Day visiting the cemetery, and it was very nicely cleaned up. Thank you to those middle schoolers. And that's been happening since I was in middle school at Huntington. So it's got to be, I don't want to, only 5-10 years ago. No,
Yeah,
probably
right.
25 years. So at least, so that's a pretty awesome program. So I just wanted to highlight that. They did a great job out there.
A mere 25 years ago,
What's that?
a mere 25 years
Here,
ago.
yes. Very short time.
Well, there was a lot of, there was a lot of publicity in the 90s about that program getting started.
Yes.
Because it had been ignored for years and years
Correct.
and years.
We actually, my class did a fundraiser to replace a couple headstones. And as 13-year-olds, we had no idea how much those cost. We thought we were going to replace them all. And I think we were able to do 2, but it really kickstarted the 90s, and it's continued, which is great. So.
Yeah, I think it's the only, arguably, it's the only cemetery that's not, has absolutely no financial basis.
Right,
It's
no
not part of the
district.
It's not
Nope.
part of a cemetery district.
It's not, it's purely parks, yeah. And then the last item I have is landfill related. Mike Moss and Sean Rowe are actually up at the landfill right now doing a press tour with TDN and PUD. So they're thinking there's going to be an article perhaps this weekend in the paper regarding the project up there. So they're up there doing that right now. That is all I have.
Have they contacted you on that?
They have not. I have commented on Andres Stepankowski's column on it.
Hmm.
Because he was asking questions about how much of a subsidy, how much it had raised ratepayers' costs. Because it was like $30 million project. Where's that money going to come from?
Got it.
Type of thing. Is it going to raise rates? So
You willingly and happily pointed out how expensive other garbage rates are in the rest of the state.
I told him, what did I tell him? I said, the PUD is getting it all financed. We have a contribution out of our general fund, which is true. That it shouldn't be an additional cost because we're getting rid of a waste product. So
Good answer. That is all we have for public services.
Continuing, what's a timetable on the PUD arrangement? We're still a while away from a real contract, right?
I believe, I don't know if a while away, we definitely do have the larger contract that we're working on continually. I do know that the funds that they've received from the federal government, I think have to be obligated by the end of this year. So I believe it's going to
tax
start.
credits
The
disappear.
tax
then, yeah.
credits, okay. So we do have to at least spend some of that money perhaps on equipment, materials. But so I think the contract might move a little bit quicker here in the next couple months.
Yeah.
I primarily have not been working on that. That has been, for the most part, Mike and Sean, so.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. We are on miscellaneous. I think someone's anxiously waiting to do miscellaneous.
Does your miscellaneous have anything to do with the handout we got?
It's going to be a tag team between the director of finance and the director of the county commissioners, AKA the clerk.
Okay,
Mm.
but do they have a hat? Do they all have a hat?
Rick hasn't gotten his yet.
But both commissioners have their hand up. Okay, Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director.
Kelly Dombrowski, Clerk of the Board.
And we're here to present a proposal that we'd like for your consideration so that we can continue on developing this project. And it's titled Cowlitz County Cafe.
So the Commissioner's Office is requesting to open and manage a cafe for the Administrative Building and the Hall of Justice. This is to provide benefits for the employees and the citizens and the jury members over at the Hall of Justice. I'm sorry, I don't have the presentation up because I can't.
No, that's fine.
But
But
I can't do
remember
both.
what I said, anything on there is fair game. You said numerous benefits.
I think so, yeah.
So the numerous benefits
Well, I'll
are,
start with the current situation. So the current situation is the administrative building. We only have, our options is the vending machines, which I feel like they are quite expensive, but.
can you
that's
speak a
just-
little more into the microphone? Thank you.
The vending machines, which I feel they are, they tend to be a little more expensive than purchasing things, and I don't know how well used that is. We have space down in that area that is unused, full of equipment. And then there's limited parking for employees in this area, so if you have a chance to leave for lunch, you're limited on finding parking when you come back. So a lot of people have issues leaving for lunch. So those are kind of the current situation for the administration building. The Hall of Justice, they do not have anything on site. It's, as my understanding, when COVID happened, the person who was running the cafe there pulled out and nobody has been in there since. They also have unused equipment and space. It's when you walk into the Hall of Justice, it's on your left. And then there's limited deliverable options for the jury members. So the county is required, or they do, I'm not sure what it is, but they do purchase lunches for the jury members when they're in deliberation. So they just don't have a lot of delivery options for them. Our target condition, and this probably is more where it's bringing the numerous positives. We would like to have a fully functioning cafe at the administration building and the Hall of Justice. So we would like to sell local food and beverage. We've reached out to a couple places that are interested, which is the Gifted Kitchen and Red Leaf Coffee. It will bring convenience for the employees and hopefully job satisfaction. I kind of talked about a little bit. The space, also building a positive workplace. I need to put my glasses on. Healthier choices for the citizens and the jury members. My understanding is that they are ordering pizza for the jury members now. So this will give them some more options. Also, looking over the past with the cafes, it doesn't seem like we've been able to keep somebody in there for a long period of time. So they get in and then they find out, there isn't a lot of business here because we are limited on bringing in the public and advertising. So this would give something that's sustainable. We would be able to modify it to be able to meet the needs of the employees and the public and have a little more control over it. We plan to budget to just break even, so we wouldn't be making any money and hopefully not losing any money either. We would like to hire 2 to 3 part-time employees for this. They would work limited hours from 7 to 1 with a break in there. And to begin with, it would be from a temporary agency because we want to see how this is working. And also, we would think about other options if we could for catering for meetings or retirement parties. You know, some of the elected officials and the department heads like to be able to have some food for their employees for special events. So this would be an option that they would be able to use. You want to go over the obstacles because they're.
So some of the obstacles we foresee, starting off, would be finding part-time employees, some that would be willing. This is a 19-hour a week, 18 to 19 hours. So that's why we're also opting to use an employment agency to start off with as well. Wasted food items, we hope not to have that because of the fact that we would be ordering the day before for services, for our services. So we don't anticipate much in the way of wasted food items. These are all prepackaged items that we would be selling. We wouldn't be making anything ourselves. And then we also, of course, we want to break even. The potential obstacle there is our sales don't match up to what we budgeted. And in that case, since it's a pilot program, if we had to, for example, we had to shut down the administrative building because it wasn't performing well, we would be able to do that easily. And then the same thing for the Hall of Justice. We don't foresee that, but if we had to, we can make adjustments. And then also another obstacle is that we would probably have to have an interfund loan to be established and set up. And I would anticipate it would probably be about $10,000 or less to get us started so that we had enough cash to buy supplies and things like that to get started and to pay the rental agreement on a coffee espresso type machinery. Because we believe we have all the machinery that we need. Since we're not cooking, we just need to be able to have refrigeration and cleaning space and things like that. Space to store the supplies, which is all ample already. Any questions? And I can go into the financials next.
I think probably the financials we can look at,
Yeah.
that we can
Right.
pass on at this point.
Yeah.
Discussions, Mr. Weber?
So as you know from the sign that's still downstairs, the last operator worked for Grounds for Opportunity, which is a division of CAP. Have you reached out to them to find out why they left?
I haven't.
I have not.
Okay. They might provide you with some insights. My understanding, since I was on the board and they made the decision to cut the program, it was because there simply there were not enough people using
Right,
the facilities.
And
So
I
it didn't meet the costs for the employee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if they were, I mean, when I put my model together, I put it together assuming this is not a profit basically it's not meant to be profit, it's meant to be a service. And so I don't know if they were trying to cover any overhead. I did not build anything like that into our budget.
But you made an estimate on how many sandwiches and
Yes, I
how
did.
many sales you
Yeah,
make.
so that's why
And-
I'm saying we'd
Yeah.
like to go into this as a pilot program. I think both Kelly and I believe giving it 3 months, 6 months to evaluate, and we can also evaluate on a daily basis or weekly basis.
I I did hear the comments that employees lose their parking spaces. I've yet to be aced out of a parking space at the parking lot I use, which is right across from the church down here. There is space available. They just lose their parking space from the morning.
Yes,
I get that
yes.
because that's why I'm actually down there because so much less problematic is food services at the Hall of Justice, which I would be, much more supportive
Yeah.
of giving that a go. I think it was making money, but I think the guy was just kind of burned out. It was like a one-man operation. He was there all the time.
Yeah,
Didn't
and,
have
and,
relief,
and my
so.
model, the Hall of Justice, by far, because of the volume, it
Right.
can actually do a little bit better than break even. But,
And he
if-
made really good soups.
Yeah.
That was.
and we're proposing a very limited menu items too, but mostly healthy type options, salads, wraps, soups, some various other items. Yeah, so we could, as a pilot, we could do just one location, the Hall of Justice, if that was what the board wanted us to do, but we felt like doing both locations would help us with all of the overall expenses and organizing of the event and provide services to this building that we don't really have someplace you can walk to even to go to lunch, really not really.
Yeah, I look at this as an employee initiative, and pretty typically you want to honor an employee initiative if you possibly can. I think your caution about this building is correct. Just feeling that, but
But the
your
Hall of
statement said
Justice
Hall of
might be able to
Justice.
subsidize, this building,
Well,
the activities.
I would think if I had a business plan, I would say plan the Hall of Justice out and then decide 3 months, 6 months later, how you might do
To
here, right?
stand up this
Just
one.
see how it goes. Here, I think, let's see, you had 138 lunch items. And that just seems terribly ambitious to me, but
Yeah, I did, when I did my number of items, I did it for this building, for example, it's only 4 days. So it is less,
oh, that's a whole week's worth of data.
that's a whole week. It's not by day. Yeah, that's a whole week. So like on a daily basis, it's only about 30,
Yeah.
40 items at most.
I think I'm okay with going ahead with the Hall of Justice. This means ultimately we'll get a plan presented to us and we'll have to make a decision. And I wouldn't want to make a final decision without everybody.
No, I'm good with that too.
Yeah. Does that meet with your approval enough?
Yeah, so possibly just start, we're here today because we would need to start looking at, the leasing of equipment, things like that to continue our research and also to possibly do a catering type contract.
Right. So I think we said that, see how that works out with the Hall of Justice.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So what happens if those very busy workers out at public services want a cafeteria with catering?
Well, we would probably put together a pro forma for that
You know,
and see if it pans out.
On the other hand, I have not heard the requests either, so.
The people in public works are health conscious. And so they walk over to the Dairy Queen.
They walk to the Dairy. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The good thing about these proposals, both spaces have, like you said, have previously had operations. And so there's the space already there. There's some of the equipment already there. And so
Is there much equipment missing at the Hall of Justice?
for what we need, because we won't be preparing food, we'll only be preparing coffee, drinks. There's plenty of refrigeration. There's washing ability, washing and sink ability. That's basically it. And then we need electricity to run the machinery for the coffee machine. And that's about all you really need.
And a microwave for heating up stuff?
Yeah, we'll probably, on that one, we'll probably sell a lot less heated items because it's basically going to be grab and go from there because there's no seating area for the Hall of Justice. As opposed to this building, we have some seating area.
You're going to be in the first floor. I
First
thought you
floor
were going to
lobby.
serve the jurors upstairs.
No, first floor lobby.
They used to provide soups. That was quite a hit back in those days.
And that just requires electricity, to plug in the large kettle machine.
Don't forget the pastries too, the healthful pastries.
Probably not so healthy.
And you didn't ask, you didn't ask,
That's the cafeteria we opened up at Health and Human Services. This pastry shop.
you didn't ask the hard question about how do you collect your money?
Yeah, that's one of the things we need to continue to research. We do not want to accept, we don't want to be responsible for a lot of cash type operations. It'd probably be card only for debit and credit cards. So. Reduce theft and cash over and short.
Yeah, if you eliminate the cash option, it saves a lot of other operational costs.
Yeah.
Awful lot of people are used to that now anyway. It's,
Yeah,
the
that was
question is
the
whether you
claim.
want to do prepaid cards or just.
Yeah,
rely
that's
on
something,
debit
that's something
card
we could
systems.
look at to evolve into. We even talked about if we ran it, eventually maybe looking into the option of employees being able to have the option to have a type of credit that may come against their payroll as a payroll deduction. But that involves a lot of research and I'm not sure we're not ready for that.
I think they've got to go.
So Kelly, are you going to become an expert in caramel macchiato or something like that? Well, this is a good time for any citizen comments. I don't see very many people on. I'm trying to get used to my glasses. No comments there. Did you have anything else that you wanted
No,
to discuss?
I just wanted to mention that tomorrow afternoon, I will be judging a history-related contest over at Kessler School.
Excellent.
They've been participating in a program called We the People. So it's about constitutional history. And the kids are giving presentations to demonstrate their understanding. So I'm pretty excited to see how that works out at the elementary school level. I did a similar program at the high school level the last 5 or 6 years I taught. So
Are you going to do a Nathan Hale example?
no, Nathan Hale was not affected by the U.S. Constitution. He was a revolutionary.
Yeah. However, the Constitution had its origins in rebellion, right?
Right. Yes.
So you won't be
We'll
hanging
find
any
out, we'll
students.
find out what they, what they're gonna, what the parameters are of their
Oh,
talks.
that's right. You're judging, you're not.
I'm judging, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, do you,
And the challenge will be for me not to lecture when I'm commenting on their,
you know yourself.
yeah, I know myself.
Um, Yeah, it's also hard to judge, isn't it? Because most of all of that is second nature to you, and you're dealing with somebody who's how old? 8, 10, 12?
Right, yeah, yeah. So we'll see.
And of course, our perspectives haven't changed since we were 8 years old, right?
Nor has the Constitution. Or the
Our
Supreme,
perception
or
of
the,
the
or the,
Constitution.
or the Supreme Court. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I will be gone next week on family business in Montana.
Oh, you'll be gone, yeah, you'll be gone next week, so we'll be down to 2 commissioners again.
Still,
Um,
I've discovered this county works pretty well with just 2 commissioners.
Did you look at the agenda for next week, and was there anything there that you wish to?
I know that the Wednesday workshop is on animal control,
Right.
and I kind of wish I could be here to listen to how it's turned out with the county's side of the program, but I'll read the minutes.
Or the video.
We'll be on the road coming back, so, or the video. Yeah, the video I usually.
After the fact.
Yeah, after the fact.
Clerk of the board, is there anything else we need to do? Well, thank you. In that case, I say we're adjourned and we're done.